42 was the first.
The Col de la Bonnette, at a mighty 2,802 metres, the highest paved road in Europe. Bonnette making its first tour appearance in 1962 on stage 18 between Antibes and Briançon. Such a remarkable climb needed a remarkable climber to immortalise its debut. Enter Federico Bahamontes, the Eagle of Toledo. Spaniard, already one of the greatest climbers of all time, winner of the Tour in 1959 and King of the Mountains in 3 different editions. In 1962, Bahamontes was chasing his 4th mountains classification, and nobody could live with him when the road ramped up like this. Rider number 91, soaring his way to the summit, cheered on by the fans who'd braved the climb of La Bonnette. If anything, he was going too quickly for the poor photographers. Next to reach the summit was Eddie Pavels, the race's most combative rider, followed a few minutes later by the 1958 winner, Charlie Gall. Bahamontes was caught on the descent, but little matter. He still went down in history as the first man to conquer La Bonnette.
Absolutely magnificent. I wasn't sure what steed he was on there, but the equipment extraordinarily different, and that almost adds to our admiration of what they achieved, Danny, back in the day.
Yeah, it does indeed, and we talk
Bit of
about
Reynolds tubing.
all the advancements, don't we, of technology, but it's always great to see what the riders had to ride on back then, how times have changed, and yeah, there's pros and cons, isn't there, of all the scientific evidence that we now have within our sport and how it changes bike racing.
John, you've got to tell us about this. Who are they keeping out and who are they keeping in?
Well, this was initially built in 1843 and completed in 1865, so just a border patrol, really, but then came to prominence during the First World War. Fortress was used as a prison for German soldiers. In June 1940, it was then used to house the command posts of the units defending the Ubay Valley, and it had 500 cannon shots to stop the Italian troops getting in. It was used as an ammunition dump up until 1987. Now it has been secured by the local commune, and they haven't decided what they're going to do with it yet. So it's not a museum. It's just one of those things that the commune owns, but they haven't quite agreed on what they're going to do with it.
John, it's got to be an Airbnb, a super luxury one for you and your recipes, surely. I mean, what a place, what a view.
A restaurant, it could definitely be a restaurant. That would be, what an idea that is.
Jono's barbecue, fantastic. Well, we've got a moment, John, before we actually take on the climb. What are we, just about 1 o'clock in the UK, 2 in the afternoon as the bottles get handed directly. How's that for service? John, what have you got cooked up for us today?
Today, Carlton, I've done a very tasty little morsel, which is a crevette tartare, so prawn tartare, which is sort of an homage of my own towards Jose, the chef at the Petit Fanon in Paris. He was a lovely Portuguese chef who worked there for many, many years. Apparently, though, when I last spoke to the guys running the restaurant, he went away on his summer holidays one year, never came back. So they don't really know what happened to him, but he was a great chef, and he used to do this fantastic starter of prawns, coriander, ginger, chilies, avocado, sesame seed and toasted sesame oil, some fresh olive oil as well, salt and pepper, and a little bit of extra garlic. So it's just cooking your raw prawns with a little bit of garlic until they're nice and well, very, very tasty and succulent. Then you chop them up, throw them together with all the other ingredients, stick them in a chef's ring, and Bob's your uncle. And that recipe, along with all others, can be found on my Instagram page, @JHBFoodieCyclist. And I'm going to brave making brioche again this evening, so that hopefully that brioche recipe will be there for your delectation tomorrow.
John's going to be platting brioche. Can't wait to see the result. Here we go then. We're about to get off and underway. Chemin de la Bonnette. And there it is, 10.3% towards the end. Some of the gradients are going to be a lot more than that, or possibly feel that way by the time we get to the end. Now, there is a margin of 4 minutes and 22. Two satellite riders up the road on behalf of Jonas Vingegaard, and an awful lot of action about to happen right now, I believe, anyway. I think it may well be that when we get over the top of the Bonnette, things have thinned down. We'll have more of a picture, Larry, as to what is ahead of us today.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of action about to start. So I think everyone in the peloton, they'll be taking their last nature breaks. They'll be going to the car, getting their bottles, their food, and yeah, buckling up because it's gonna take off, I think. So it'll be interesting to see what happens up here in the breakaway, to see, you know, if Carapaz pushes on in front, if the guys from Visma end up slowing down. But I guess we'll know soon enough.
Danny, it's been described variously as a reasonably steady climb. There's not much respite throughout it. There are a couple of little plateau sections, but you have to work very hard to get to them.
Yeah, you do, and the top is the steepest. So the final kilometre averages at around 12%. I think we'll still see fireworks before that. But if we haven't seen them by the top, that will be where, you know, the real action will start. Richard Carapaz will be looking to take 40 points at the top, so extra double points on offer. Tadej Pogačar just throwing his bottle into the Intermarché car there.
Don't do that at home, kids, because it can end up rolling underneath a brake pedal, and that's not what we want. Sorry, Danny.
No, I was just saying that Carapaz will, of course, be going for those 40 points. It's double points on the top of La Bonnette. That would put him in virtual lead in that competition, and the steep part is towards the top.
I've got a feeling that Tadej Pogačar may well get fined for that. I have to say, it's a bit dangerous, but
I think they'll let it go. You know, I think
the user have been very strict here, Larry.
Yeah, but you know, I think he would have gotten a fine if he threw it on the side of the road, and I think he still did the right thing by trying to dispose of his bottle in a place where it'll get taken care of. But it was pretty last-minute quick thinking. I think, yeah, if I'm in that situation, I actually try to give it to the red car. You know, if you have some trash, they're happy to take it. But you know, I actually think those guys will be happy to have that souvenir from Tadej.
Maybe, yeah. Not much premeditated about that, if it is deemed to be a crime. So 4 and 5% at the very beginning, and then it starts to ramp up. 7 and there really doesn't drop below that. The last 5, even 10 kilometres of this climb, and it's a long one, we remind you. It goes on, and indeed, by the time we get to the top, after 22.9 kilometres of climbing, we will be 2,800 metres above sea level. That is a long way up. The air will be thin. Danny, describe to us what it does to the body.
Oh, a lot, but these riders are used to it. Just hear from UAE Team Emirates on the radio. And oh, here we go.
Just with this pace, perfect like this, guys. And important, follow the Gorka plan, with feeding.
Well, we saw them back at the car, Danny, making sure that they've had everything that they need, because it's going to be very difficult to make a take of anything you might need when the averages really start to pick up.
Yeah, and there'll be a meticulous feeding plan, as we just heard there from UAE Team Emirates. Also carrying bottles up the climb, they'll know when to get rid of them, because we saw Jonas on a special bike this morning. It'll be the lightest version of whatever is available to him. But you don't want to be carrying excess bottles when you don't need them. So that will be part of the plan, when to take liquid on board, when to fuel before the climb. It's really hard to keep fueling, especially on the steeper gradient. So that would have been planned throughout every single stage as to how many carbohydrates you need, when you should take them, and when to get rid of those bottles from your bike. But yeah, going back to altitude, it's really, really tough, and that's why riders spend a lot of time at altitude, not just for the benefits that it gives you physiologically, but also to get used to racing, because obviously the oxygen is very, very different. And we don't know how these riders' bodies are going to respond to it. We discussed it on the breakaway that you could have a very bad day at altitude, and Larry was saying it can just magnify how you're feeling, whether that be good or bad. So it's just another element to add into the mix today.
So a kind of a gentle introduction to something that's absolutely hellish today. It's been writ large in the battle plan of many a team. I am certain, possibly for many, Larry, just to be coped with apart from anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so like Danny was saying, I do think doing pre-tour altitude camps, it can serve two purposes. You know, one, it is, you know, it's good, helps you create more red blood cells. It's good for the performance in that way, but it's also to be able to adapt to, performing at altitude, to be able to do these efforts at high altitude. And we see those are really critical points in every Grand Tour. You know, every Grand Tour, we have stages where the finishes are over 2,000 meters, and once you hit that threshold, then it probably starts from about 1,400, 1,500, you really start to feel it. And if you can spend a few weeks, 21 days for a lot of the teams before a Grand Tour adapting to that altitude, you're definitely better off for it, and it's easier to make those efforts when you get there.
Crowds here out in force. Also, a fighting force now just being invoked by UE Team Emirates. You see the clock just starting to tick down on the gap. I'm just wondering when the test of Jonas Vingegaard and those he has around him from Visma Lease Bike begins. And it feels like it's now. There is a sort of a change of demeanour back in the peloton. They've managed to find 4 or 5 seconds in very short order. Let's see if that clock does indeed start to bounce. There's been a response by those up front. And the security whoop is doing its job of trying to clear indeed a path for everybody here. Carapaz has been somebody who's absolutely grown into the race. He's been wasn't as lively as perhaps we thought early on, and all of a sudden he seems very much in command of his own destiny. I wouldn't be surprised if he grabs another win today, Danny.
No, I wouldn't be, and I think if we look at the history of Carapaz, if he's not going for GC, he usually does come good in this third week, and that's exactly what we've seen from him here. We didn't know quite what his form was going to be after crashing out of the Tour de Suisse, but he has grown throughout this race. He had the yellow jersey early on, didn't he? You know, for EF, they came in with 8 leaders. That was their goal, to give 8 opportunities to all of these riders. They tried and tried again with mainly Carapaz and Ben Healy, and then it paid off, didn't it? And Carapaz took his win that he very much deserved. But yeah, this is a perfect situation for him going for the polka dot jersey competition. But if this gap sustains, he's definitely got the capabilities, the attributes as a rider to take another stage win.
Another 5 seconds, 6 seconds now, going the way of the peloton, which is the yellow jersey group, which is being driven on by UE Team Emirates at the moment. A whole phalanx of Visma Lease Bike riders are around Jonas Vingegaard in the polka dot jersey behind. Meanwhile, the two up front doing a fantastic job. Matthew Jorgensen and Wilco Kelderman just doing their steering duties as they can. How much margin do you think that they want between the two groups by the time we get to our final climb? Bearing in mind that we believe that Jorgensen and Kelderman will be satellite riders and used as such. But the chase is on here, Larry.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking that myself. I was trying to calculate, if I'm in the breakaway, how much time do I need at the bottom of the last climb if I want to win the stage? I think a guy like Carapaz on a day like today will need somewhere around 4 minutes. If he's feeling incredible, maybe he could keep 2.5. He might be able to do it, but I would say 4 minutes he'll be able to do it. But if I'm Vingegaard and I want to go across to my guys, I definitely don't want a 5-minute gap to cross, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But if I were Jonas and Visma, I'd probably try somewhere halfway up this climb to really make it hard.
Bavanat now off duty, apparently. There'll be some others as well. Chris Juliansen just coming off the back here, no shame in it whatsoever. We're going to have a gruppetto today. It's already established, as you can see. It's 10.5 minutes down, but our thoughts are not even on the riders up front. Our main thoughts, it's about what's going to happen between Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard. And quite frankly, we're not quite sure just for the time being, and that's the magic of it. I know many have been on social media saying, no, this race is already over. It's far from it, Danny, and these 2 days are absolutely pivotal. And I suggest the next, 76 kilometres, even more so.
Yeah, we've got 2 monstrous days, haven't we, where everything could change. This race, to me, is still very much wide open. We know that minutes can, you know, be won or lost on a day like today, on a day like tomorrow. And we keep talking about Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard, but we have to mention Remco Evenepoel as well, because he's been riding with such maturity. He's 2 minutes and 2 seconds behind Jonas Vingegaard, but he could really profit off those two looking at each other. And also the fact that Jonas is going big, is going for the win as well. And if he does blow up, that could work in Remco's favour. That last climb really levels out at the top. It's very steep at the bottom, Isola, but then at the top, the last kind of 6 kilometres is at about 6%. So if there are gaps there, he could really use those to close and then try and attack himself. So definitely not over. And today and tomorrow are the big ones.
I've got it as 1 minute and 58, but nonetheless, it's extraordinarily tight as well in a few other sections. Landa is 27 seconds behind Almeida in 4th. Carlos Rodriguez is 6 seconds only behind 5th place Landa himself, as also duking out for a top 10 place, don't forget, with Derek G, Buitrago and Felix Gall, all really blanketed by around about a minute, so they can make up ground or indeed lose it. And some important, indeed, bragging rights that you'll have at the end of today. However, first and foremost, we've got to deal with the Col de Bonnet, and it's starting to intensify already. It's going to be welcoming back our wider Eurosport, our wider cycling fraternity, I should say, here. Those of you who don't want to go on commercial breaks, by the way, you can subscribe to Discovery Plus. I'm talking to those who are already converted. We're waiting for Linear to come back to us at the moment. So we ply our trade along the boundaries of this almost a rib, isn't it, as we get up to the high ground. But what waits for us is some very thin air at the top once we bridge 2,800 meters of altitude. There it is. Absolutely remarkable. Well, the pace is being set and doing a fantastic job out front. Jorgensen and Kelderman, I don't know whether it was a short straw for them today or not, but however it worked out, I think they were very much part of the dialed-in plan, and they are delivering. Holding a margin, though, which is diminishing. We'll be into the 3 minutes soon, you know. Early reaches of the Chemin de la Bonnette, and already 30 seconds has been lost to a yellow jersey group of Poggy supporter here, as you can see.
I love this. I think this is so cute. This is what it's all about, isn't it? Inspiring these youngsters on the side of the road. It's brilliant.
Well, John's going to give an homage of one here. They went to the printers, John.
I mean, it's not even worth. I like the Vive le Tour up above it. That's good. But the person dancing around with the tricolor, dressed, it looks like he's dressed as Santa. I mean, what on earth? Or is he dressed as a chicken? He's dressed as a chicken in a tricolor. So I mean, I'll give him more marks. He can have a 5. But yeah, the printed out. Come on.
John's really in a huff.
I have to agree with you this time, John. I thought you'd been a bit harsh up to now, but I'm agreeing with you on that one.
Yeah, it wasn't in keeping with the spirit of the homages in the Tour.
If Oscar Onley didn't know about the climb, he knows about it now, Larry. He's off the back.
Yeah, I think we're definitely seeing a high pace from the Visma guys. And, you know, earlier you were saying about, these two guys in the front. And I think a guy like Matteo, he's super excited to be able to get up the road because, you know, it's a great role to have, but he's been on the side of Vingegaard every single day. You know, he's been staying with him. And I know he's definitely wanted to go in the breakaways, but he hasn't really had his chance. So, you know, while this breakaway probably isn't for personal glory today, it's to set up something for his leader. I think he's just super excited to get out front in the Tour de France and, being able to make his impact on the race. So I think both these guys are flying, and they're going to play a really critical role today.
Two very brave riders who bridged over. Simon Yates, who is here. See him in a few moments' time. He's just off to the right hand of your screen, just picking him up in a moment. And also, of course, Richard Carapaz.
Yeah, I think Simon Yates will be disappointed to see Carapaz up there with him again today after the other day.
Yes, indeed. 1 and 2 they were, and to Super Delouville. We did speak to Tadej Pogacar this morning. Here he is.
So you have a big confidence ahead of today. So are you feeling that you ride on the highest level you ever had today?
I think yeah, this tour yeah, I think has been my best.
Pretty good, yeah.
And, yeah, I must say that I'm really satisfied with the legs. And today we see it's some say it's today Queen stage, some say it was the last Sunday Queen stage, but definitely today is super nice stage to try and win or to try something, and we see.
Exactly. We saw in Giro and Bassano del Grappa you did everything to win this Queen stage. Are you going to do the same today, or defending or attacking?
First of all, yeah, defending. It's still you never know, and this is last 3 days is super hard. So still with the head, but yeah, let's see if there's a chance to win the stage today. It would be super nice, and yeah, would pay off hard work of all the team.
And last question: who's going to be your best teammate of the day?
Who? All of them. Yeah, for sure, all of them. From kilometer 0 to last kilometer, everybody has their own role, and they always since day one they did it amazingly. And yeah, let's see today how they work. I think they will be fine.
Thank you. Good luck.
Questions being asked by Philippe Gilbert, and yeah, he's almost a magnet, of course, for all of the stars to come and reveal all. I think that was quite an open book response there, Danny.
Yeah, I think so. I think he used calm confidence there, and I think we'll see Tadej doing Tadej things again, riding, I think, somewhat defensively until that final climb. Of course, he just needs to follow Jonas having that lead. But he's a bike racer. He will attack.
All right,
He's
let's see what
feeling
happens.
good. He is on his best
I'm just
form,
going to
as
try
he
it for a high
alluded to
cadence.
there, and from what we've seen with the records on the Plateau de Bay earlier on in this tour, that if he's got a sniff of the win, he will go for it. And that's what makes him so brilliant, the fact that he goes in without a plan and he rides on instinct. So, yeah, it's lovely to hear that confidence, isn't it?
Kind of feels like a coiled spring, and you just never quite know when it's going to go. As you heard, well, sorry, you didn't, but the radio came in with Christian Rodriguez being given some advice from the car. The advice was just stay on the wheel because they're traveling at around 25 kilometers per hour. This is really quick considering the length of the climb we've got here and the will to actually impose themselves on it. Yeah, because there is some drafting out there to be had, Larry, and strong advice for Christian Rodriguez.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's good. Even on a climb like this, there's a significant amount of drafting, and he's probably saving, I don't know, maybe 10% or maybe even more of what he'd be doing in the wind. So, I think he's going to let these guys do their thing. I don't think they're too concerned about having him there, and so he just needs to save as much energy as he can, which is not easy to do when you're going up this hard of a climb. But yeah, you have to save whatever you can because the margins are so small, and yeah, these guys are definitely setting something up for a big day. So I think he'll be happy to be there, and obviously the fact that he's still hanging on to this small group. We've seen a bunch of guys going out the back. He's obviously feeling good. He's going strong, and I think that's really great for the Arkea team to have someone up there on a day like today.
Not too many camper vans, not down here anyway. It's because it's quite a narrow road, to be fair. There's not many pull-off points, as you can see, and I think the sympathy with camper vans has kind of ebbed just a little bit because they've become so numerous on several of the more famous climbs, or the more visited, I should say. Still biting onto his tongue here, and still, well, we were trying to decide whether it was a smile or a grimace. I think it's absolutely the latter at the moment for Niels Pollitt, Danny.
It is a grimace, but my goodness, what a ride
Amazing.
he's doing. We were saying that his biggest job would have been over that first climb, and now it will be for as long as he can go up this Labonnet, and that's why we're seeing this grimace. But it's just remarkable what we've seen from Niels Pollitt through the entirety of this Tour de France.
The pendulum has been swinging as well. Time's going back out as Jorgensen and Kelderman continue to indeed drive on the break as it stands at the moment. 6 have just shed, Nicolas Prudhomme and Arnaud van Wilde. Oscar Onley said he didn't know much about the climbs today, and he's suddenly found out. Meanwhile, there's a long line of talent all the way down this mountain, isn't there?
Yeah, and there seemed to be a lot of chat.
Okay, let's go. 9 more, 9 more.
Guys, a little bit before we saw Vingegaard on the radio, and then his two teammates just talking there. So I kind of wonder if they're discussing maybe thinking of starting to make a move somewhere. I'm not sure, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I think he's going to come. I think he's going to come on this because of the amount of descending we've got. Surely if it's left all the way until the very end, possibility of it being too late, Danny?
Yeah, I think so. You can just see Tadej Pogacar moving up a couple of spaces on the left-hand side there. Maybe he's feeling something. Maybe he just got a little bit of insight in that conversation that we heard. And you have to keep your ears and eyes open in this sort of scenario. Have your wits about you. Be attentive throughout and focused. It'll be what Adam Blythe has to say on the back of the motorbike. Very shortly, we're going to go to him.
We are around about 7% at the moment. Steady. The kind of climb that really suits Simon Yates. His brother Adam is very much in the service, of course, of Tadej Pogacar. I saw him looming up a little bit earlier on, and he looked absolutely amazing. Adam Blythe on the bike. Here he comes.
So I am just behind the breakaway, and just down there, I just caught a glimpse of the peloton. Obviously, UAE are riding. They have a plan today. And it's going to play into the hands of Visma Lease bike. The only issue is that Tadej Pogacar might want it to be harder than what Jonas Vingegaard actually wants to go, you know. With Jonas Vingegaard, we know that he's going to go on the attack, but we don't know how he's feeling. If Tadej Pogacar's feeling good, which it looks like he is there the risk that Jonas could put himself into difficulty? He's got the plan at the minute. He's got the two riders up the road just in front of me, but is it going to work out? I think with Tadej Pogacar showing the recent form he's had, it's amazing. Just look at this view here. Hold on. Look at that out there. Flipping lovely. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it is just beautiful up here. I keep getting distracted by the views. But yeah, it's going to be a fast and furious one. I keep saying fast and furious. I apologise, ladies and gentlemen. But it is going to be a hard one. We're about halfway up this climb right now, and it is getting chillier and chillier as well. So I'm sure the riders will quite enjoy a bit of cool breeze. Back to you, commentators.
Thank you, Adam. He's got a little frame there, and he's kind of using it as a sort of an armchair as he just surveys the horizon. I'm loving the fact that he's enjoying it so much, and indeed so are you at home. I am so absolutely certain. What a day, and what tension we've got here as well. It's rolling on, isn't it?
It is, and I have to say, with Adam on the motorbike, I would say most days I think it looks like it's a good gig, you know. But today with those descents, I think it's pretty scary. Yeah, today I'm not envious, but yeah.
Well, with this very long descent that is coming, I know I keep banging on about it, but it's reasonably technical as well. Just to let you know, we are approaching it from the opposite side than the Col de Monet was taken. When it finished into Joncier, when Jean-Louis Augustin actually binned the bike on a corner. He was unhurt, but the bike skittled down the mountain in the shale and gravel and was, I think it was retrieved only by, they used a rope and a hook because nobody wanted to go down there because it's very, very loose shale up top. I'm hoping we get a good view of it. Once we get beyond the tree line, we should actually see it, and I can't believe it won't be mentioned, and maybe we'll even have a little bit of footage, which would be amazing. It was back in 2008. Yes, starting Cuneo, finishing Josier, where we have just left. So we're approaching it from the opposite side. So it was on the downhill, which is our uphill right now. So we'll get to the famed point when Jean-Louis Augustin finished 33rd that day, I might add. It was taken by Cyril Dissel, who won into Joncier. Just to tidy that up for you.
And my current director. Oh, sorry.
No, your current director.
Yeah.
Has he mentioned anything about today then?
No, but it is funny because now that you say that, I actually do remember having, as a kid, I had that Tour de France on DVD, and I remember watching it so many times on the home trainer because it was actually the only edition I had. So I watched that stage quite a few times.
So you'll be able to talk us through every inch of this ascent then, albeit it was taken a lot quicker last time by.
Yeah, I think, it's quick today. But one small thing that I just wanted to note that I think is quite interesting is when you look at the Visma riders' bikes today. So there was a lot of talk about Vingegaard riding an aero bike with a single front chainring today, and you see that Matteo Jorgensen, if we go back at a certain point, he has the same setup. So he has an aero bike with climbing wheels, but for some reason Kelderman has the opposite, a climbing bike with aero wheels, and it's just interesting why they would have made that choice for some guys, not the others. But obviously, if they made it, they did something, and maybe it could be a personal preference from Kelderman. He maybe doesn't like to ride the aero bike, whereas the other guys do. And yeah, it's kind of interesting, but I think that also means it must be potentially because the climbs are a little bit less steep today, it could be faster.
Niels Pollitt versus Jorgensen and Kelderman at the time being. He's held this position for quite some time. Look at the way Vingegaard is just having a little bit of a scanner. I don't know whether he looked into the face of Tadej Pogačar just to see his demeanour. I'm not quite sure what messages he's going to be getting back from that, Danny. Always on the blower.
I mean, I can't see them really trying to play mind games at this stage at all. They'll just be focusing on the job in hand. Yeah, it's just really interesting, isn't it? Niels Pollitt doing a fantastic job, keeping those strength in numbers for as long as possible for UAE. But when are the fireworks going to start? We know they are going to happen, but it's that tension building as to where that might be. Pavel Sivakov just talking into his radio as well. They'll be communicating with that director sportif. They will have a plan in mind, but ultimately they also need to race on instinct and follow any moves that might come from Visma Lease bike.
Dare we cast our minds back to 2018 and Froome in the run to Bardonecchia? We don't know.
Why not?
A very, very long distance attack from 80 Ks. 13 kilometres to the top of the Col de la Bonnette. There's been a lot of radio traffic between Tadej Pogačar. He's been talking presumably back to base, maybe even addressing the riders around him on general call. Well, if they're on call right now, it's because there is some drama about to unfold. And in the next 12.9 kilometres, I believe we're going to see some, because the very, very long descent that just comes off the back of it. It is a huge margin that they'll be taking on. We come over the top, and it's 40 kilometres of descending. And the roads, as Matt was describing to us earlier on today, very good surface, no chance of rain today, and very little wind either to bedevil us, Larry.
Yeah, that's great. And just one small note, I think just seeing on the camera slightly before was, I'm pretty sure we just saw Bart Lemon going out the back of the peloton, which is not good news for Jonas Vingegaard, because yeah, he would have been looking towards him to maybe potentially up the pace in the peloton at a certain point. So it looks like now it's just
almost halfway. One more.
Up there with him. So yeah, you know, he wants to have as many teammates as possible, and maybe that could be an important loss right there.
Tadej Pogačar is sitting on his team at the moment. He does that occasionally. He often leads his team as well when he wants a little bit more pace and they're struggling. But they seem to be in not exactly a comfort zone. You could never describe it as that. But Danny, I understand you're going to be heading off for a break. Your last thoughts on what strategy? When's it going to blow with 12.6 Ks to go?
That's the big question. That's the big question, isn't it? I don't think they'll wait for the really steep inclines towards the top of the climb. I think in around kind of 4-5 kilometers time is where we will see the action really happening behind.
Thank you, Danny. We stay with Larry and we bring Sean Kelly back into position. Sean, the gap actually trimmed to around 3 minutes 55. It's back out to 4:20, and that's down to the efforts of Kelderman and Jorgensen up front. They're doing an amazing job.
Well, they're doing this job all day, and you know, it is a real difficult one. 4 minutes and 20 on the peloton. Is it going to be a one where some of these guys can hold out in front? And the question is now, what is the tactic of Visma? Because going out this morning, of course, you have a tactic, but that can change many times during the day. And will they change here? Will they be attacked here on the Seam Bonnet? I don't think so. I think it'll be all down to Isola climb there, and that's another serious one, of course. And after this day, you know, this slow grinding down of each other, that's where you can see the damage being done then on the final climb of the day. So interesting one for Visma. What do they do here? They keep on working, possibly go for a stage win with the men they have out in front. That's also a possibility, but we have to get over this climb first.
Sean Kenny back in the commentary position. Julien Bernard here, just one of those that's been bitten by the day. And indeed, the Jan Tratnik is here. Also now starting to struggle. They have not been on the pointy end. I mean, everyone is going to feel like they've been skewered today, I have to say. And it's Geraint Thomas, who is extraordinarily busy, has been for the last couple of days as well, trying to tee up as he did so well. Mikhail Kwiatkowski. Yeah, but you just wonder about the manpower, Sean, of Visma Lease Bike, and you compare it to this site right now. It's a white wall of UAE teammates doing a phenomenal job of putting the hurt on Visma Lease Bike and the pressure on Jonas Vingegaard.
Well, we can see Visma in the early part of the stage. It looked like that they were really in control, no panic at all when the Visma team started to go in the moves and get into the breakaway. And I mentioned the earlier part, they seemed to be so relaxed, and they had a plan where they were going to just allow a breakaway to get away, then start setting the pace, and they have been setting that pace, which is a real killer. And you can see the riders getting into difficulty here. Felix Gall, you know, a brilliant climber. You'd expect him to be able to stay here until the final climb of the day. David Gaudu, not a great tour, of course. He hasn't been at his best, but there's a lot of riders losing contact here, and that just shows the power. And the big man up front for the team UAE, Pollitt, he's still riding here, and you can see the riders, he's blowing out the rear door. Like, this is an amazing performance by the team. And it looks like, when you look there, UAE, like the line of riders they've got in front of the yellow jersey, this is, you know, must be demoralising for a lot of the riders when you see that out in front of you. And we're still 11.5 kilometres at the top of this one. Gap is coming down now, as you can see, 4:08. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. And the big question, you know, Cime de la Bonnette, is that where we're going to see the action? I've said it already just a moment ago, I'll say it again. I think it will be late on the day we will see the action between the big men.
Let's just hear from Matt Stevens, shall we?
Wow, just look at this. It is like nothing else on earth. The highest point of this year's Tour de France, La Bonnette, La Cima de la Bonnette, a dizzying 2,800 metres above sea level. Now the climb itself,
Okay, 6.
long, it's a brute. They're going to be climbing for around 1 hour, 22.8 kilometres in length, an average of 6.7% gradient. But the worst is reserved for the top. The higher they get, the thinner the air. But just look at these final brutally steep slopes. The last kilometre averages just over 10%. Oh, c'est magnifique. C'est terrible.
It is, in just about every way. And it's an infernal pace that's being set up here, Larry.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to what Sean was saying. Is I don't know if there's anything more demoralizing than being a climber and getting dropped by an 80-kilo rider on the front. So, you know, I mean, what an incredible ride by Niels Pollitt out here. I mean, he's riding like 10 men. I don't think I've ever seen him go uphill so fast. So, yeah, I think Tade will be pretty proud of him right now, and he must feel pretty good, because to be able to stick it to that many climbers is, yeah, that's pretty good for the confidence.
Yes, well, it is an amazing, and we've talked about him so much in this race, the way he's climbing, and yeah, certainly that is the problem for a lot of the riders. And is a rider who is in the GC standings here, maybe in the top 10, and you see that guy setting the pace out in front, it's hard to digest. You know, it's going to start walking, especially if you're starting to suffer at this point with 10 kilometres plus to go to the top of this one. But as we heard from Matt Stevens there on the Cime Bonnette, like, it's magnifique for some, but it's a terrible, it's going to be terrible for some also.
Still got a long way to go as the snow melts. We had Philippe Gilbert do a little recon for us of the climbs today, and indeed this one in particular, he met snow at the top and was not able to do the final loop, something that was built to take it to the highest road in Europe, and we're going to enjoy that today. So they go up along and sort of skim around the crest of the mountain and then come back down the other side. What an amazing job being done by Jungers and Kelderman, I must say. They're holding this margin. And that is potentially the saving grace, Sean, for Jonas Vingegaard. It's the last card, really, he's got to play, is the men up front.
Well, that will be something we'll wait and see later on this stage. You know, will it be the card that they will be able to play? I presume starting out, that was certainly the card, but then as the day go on, you have to, you know, talk with the riders, and the director sportives will be talking with Vingegaard and see what way he's feeling, and look at the situation out front as well with these two riders they've got with Jorgensen and Kelderman. You know, two brilliant climbers. Where can they use them? You know, will it be advantage to the team to use them? That will all be considered now, and then it comes to the point, do you start, you know, thinking about the stage? But 10 kilometres to go, like, there's a lot can happen on this 10 kilometres here.
3:33.
So it's just wait, follow, check with your riders and talk with your riders to see what the situation is, and then make another plan. And this plan could change so suddenly, because if Pogačar tries to move on this climb, well then this is going to, you know, blow everything apart, and there'll be a bomb back in that group of all the favourites if he does try something in the final number of kilometres. And as we heard from Matt, the grading on this one, and as we get in now to the, you know, around 6 or 7 kilometres, I think we go over that 2,000 metres. That's when it really kicks in, and, you know, the gradient, the distance of this climb, altitude, all of that, the point we're in the race as well, getting to the end of the third week. This can be a real killer for someone. We could see some of the GC men starting to lose ground. If there's a little bit of battle here between the guys, we could see that happen already, or will it be all down to the final climb?
Larry, we're just about to get into the first of the steeper sections that we've got to deal with, or our breakaway are. They'll be hitting it when the ticker says about 65 kilometres to go. That picks up to 9 and 10%. They'll be witnessing that again at the end of this run, but it's their first taste of 3 sections of real hurt on this climb.
Yeah, and actually, I just looked. They just went over 2,000 meters, so they're already above 2,000 meters. They have 10K to go, and the hardest parts are yet to come. So, you know, if there's going to be some explosions, it's going to start from now. And, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens these next 10K, because that's going to really, tell us a lot more about the stage. So, you know, whether these guys, whether it's Tade or whether it's Jonas, are going to try something out of this group, or if, maybe the breakaway keeps their lead or even extends it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens these next few K, and I think this next ramp or two will be telling.
Sean, what's Remco Evenepoel going to get out today? He actually looks really within himself at the moment. Looks nice, cool, calm and collected. He's just taking his bottles right now, as you've just seen, staying on the coattails here of UE, very much at the forefront.
Yes, very much at the forefront, and he's going to follow for quite a long time. And yeah, will he try something on this climb? Highly unlikely. He'll just wait and see on the final climb then, when the action kicks off. And if the two main men in the general classification, Vingegaard and Pogačar, you know, they put in these attacks and they're matching each other, that's where he will try, you know, take the advantage. And as he did, what was it, 2-3 days ago, he did that in the final again today. I think it'll be all in the final climb, and you know, he has quite a bit to make up. 158 up to Jonas Vingegaard in that second position. He might have ideas of going for a bit further out.
Well, we promised you that we would try and have a look at Monsieur Augustin. He's actually from South Africa, but it's John Lee. It was coming the opposite direction, but we're getting to that point. Now, don't worry, he wasn't too badly knocked about. Finished 33rd on the day, but he was leading up and over the top on our last visit and lost his bike. Well, here he was, just at the top of the course, and this is where he got it out of shape. Now, he left the road, but watch the slide, and it just goes on and on and on. I think it was about 30 meters in the end, and he tried to retrieve his bike. Couldn't quite get there, And indeed, as you can see, it took an awful long time for him to be helped back up. And the bike stayed missing, I think, for possibly about 18 months, if I'm not mistaken. They used a grapple hook, Sean, and a rope to retrieve the bike ultimately. But as you can see, a very unstable surface. How they laid a road here, I don't know.
Well, you can see there on the gravel and, you know, very steep gradient, he was, you know, sliding down. And to get back up, he had, you know, the help of a spectator there or somebody. And his bike went on further. But, yeah, at the point he went off.
Let's go. We got two.
It was over for him because the stage was finished. And, yeah, luckily he came out was okay, and you know the speed he was going there, that is telling us, you know, and we see already today these ascents, you know, they are super rapid, well over 100 kilometers per hour, and that'll be the case as well coming off this Decime Bonnet. And yeah, let's hope everybody gets through safely here. We just see Niels Pollard pulling off there around the 9 kilometers from the top here, and he's done for the day. And now we can see Sivakov is the one who's taking it up. But what a job he's done for the yellow jersey in this stage.
And I'm sure offered up the congratulations by Tadej Pogačar. May well even be saying to him, Larry, yeah, just hang around at the back, and you never know, you might get back to us in a short while.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think he's saying well, you were incredible. Oh, wow. Okay, well, maybe they will actually. Maybe they actually want him to stay in the group. Which poor guy.
It's important that Niels can be with us.
Oh wow, yeah. Well, I guess poor Niels' job is not done, so it's going to be a hard day for him. But yeah, it's he did already an incredible job, and I mean they have so many guys still left that I wouldn't think they need to necessarily keep him. But I guess everyone you can keep, the better. But yeah, anyway, regardless of whether he gets over this climb or not, incredible job today, and for me, he passed with flying colors.
Sean?
No, I think that was a bit early, the recording, and they were hoping that he would stay for a long time, but my God, to ask him to stay another 9 kilometers from the time he finished for this man, you know, the big heavyweight rider, and you know, going up this climb, he's after doing you know, a brilliant ride for his team here, and this job over now. It's going to be other riders who have to take it up here, and they have got many here just in the line. You can see, you know, 4 riders there in front of the team of UAE Emirates, and again, yeah, just keep on tapping at it. Just under the 4 minutes for our leaders up the road here. But in the final 8 kilometers, that's where it will really test the guys out front. Can they hold on to this advantage of almost 4 minutes? Will it start melting? And when it starts to melt down, you know, at the altitude and all that, well then, you know, that will be a rapid one. As we can see, Jakob Fuglsang in difficulty here. You know, he must have been looking up and seeing Niels Pollard setting the pace there, and he was probably struggling for a number of kilometres as the climbers do. They hang on, and then it just gets too much for him. But yeah, we will see more of that casualties in coming out of this group.
Well, Jonas Vingegaard running out of teammates around him. He has 2 up the road, Larry. He's certainly going to need them. We'll come to Larry for his thoughts in just a moment. Check this out, 18 kilometres per hour on this kind of...
Let's go, last one.
Larry, he's still got teammates up the road. That's going to be his saving grace, Vingegaard.
Absolutely. You know, I think Visma would have been expecting to have more guys with Jonas at the moment. You know, it's not really great for them that he's isolated right now. You know, I think they would have been hoping to have at least 2 guys, especially when you see Tadej has so many teammates left with him. But yeah, they're going to have to make do with what they have, and at least they have those 2 guys up the road. So, you know, regardless of what happens, if Tadej attacks, if Jonas wants to attack, he does have those guys in front, and at any point they could drop back and wait for him. So that's really going to come into play in the final, and whether that happens on this climb or not, it doesn't look like at the moment the way they're going. Yeah, maybe Visma did have to rethink their plan. Maybe, you know, they were hoping to attack here and they won't be able to now, but I guess we'll see in the next few K. But at the moment, it looks like UAE's definitely got this under control.
Well, they're all going to burn down ultimately, Sean, today. It's how you factor in the cards that you're going to play here. And quite frankly, at the moment, UE Team Emirates seem to have all the aces.
Yes, and some will burn down much earlier than others, and that is the problem on a big monster stage of the tours. The ones, you know, who can continue on right to the end, and that's what makes the big tour riders, you know, unbelievable. To be able to stick this pace all day and then on the final climb of the day really, you know, kick on, and that's what we will see at the end of this one. But Jumbo-Visma, yesterday they had two men. They had Lemon and they had Wout van Aert out there in the breakaway. And if you do that, well, then they're going to pay the following day. And, you know, they have been doing that a number of times. UAE has been controlling, okay. You know, they had to put men on the front. But you had the likes of Wellens, who was, you know, in that duty, and he's, you know, out the rear pretty early today, which is, you know, the normal thing again. So Visma, you know, if you're going to target this stage and you feel that your leader Vingegaard can do something, you have to, you know, rest the men up for a bit before you come to these monster days. And that is the reason we've seen Visma, you know, really in difficulty with a lot of the riders in the early part of this stage.
Just under 7 kilometres until we get to the top, and the Clouders join us. Poggy winner. Well, it's certainly looking like the way at the moment, but you know, anything can happen, especially on days such as this. And of course, tomorrow our run to Cuyo, and of course Nice and the time trial, where Remco Evenepoel will be hoping to take giant leaps. I'm actually wondering about Jonas Vingegaard today. He's going to be attacked, I think, if it's possible, from all quarters. Remco Evenepoel will certainly have designs on closing that gap as well, in what might turn out to be a battle for second place.
Just behind me, I have the peloton arriving now. I stopped to wait for the breakaway. It's getting chilly back here. One of the guys on the motorbike just putting their rain jacket on, but as you can see and what you've seen from the pictures already, Sivakov on the front, Marc Soler pulling a face. Remco looks as cool as a cucumber. Tadej Pogacar absolutely fine, just itching his chest, blowing his nose, completely fine. Enrique Mas just there as well, just having a chat towards the back. Tadej Pogacar looking very cool and calm at the minute there, trying to read into the body language. João Almeida looked ever so slightly on his face there like he wasn't very comfortable, which is no surprise when you're at this altitude. It's only going to get higher and it's only going to get harder. Back to you, commentators.
Thanks, Alan. Brilliant insight. It's exactly what you need, Larry. Just look into the faces and they tell a story.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's face is looking too pretty right now, but I definitely
Remco's all right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There are some people with the poker face, but yeah, when you see that camera shot looking at everyone's faces in the peloton, it makes me feel for them. You know, I think there's a lot of guys suffering and really just giving their all to stay in that group. So yeah, maybe not Jonas, maybe not Tadej, but there are quite a few guys in there who are definitely hurting.
Snow clinging onto the hollows at the side of the mountain, and Sean, it's almost a metaphor for those who are hanging on here. Can we include in that list Jonas Vingegaard, who just drifts out to the centre of the road here, almost looks nonchalant as he dispatches something. A lot on his shoulders, Sean.
Well, there's a lot, and there's a lot of pressure on him, and you know, to try and challenge the man in the yellow jersey there. And it's all about feeling, you know, from experience, and this man has got a lot of experience riding 3-week tours and, you know, winning the past two. The man in the yellow jersey has got the experience as well. But experience is one thing. What you need is, you need to have a good day. You do not want a big off day on a stage like this, and that's always the little concern. Even though you're riding well, as Pogacar has been doing the last number of days, you know, you're just hoping that you do not get that day on the wrong one. And for Vingegaard, he's had difficulty the last number of days. He's hoping that he's going to get better and he'll have a real good day. And that's all you can do. And then you just get on with the business and, you know, leave the race go on and go to a point when you feel that this is the time I can try something. And yeah, will Vingegaard try something on this climb? With 3 minutes and 40 out of the leaders, well, he has got the team power out front with his two men up there. So if he's capable of doing it from this point, well, then why not give it a try? And that could be the case in this final 5.6 kilometres. He could go on the attack, but yeah, it's a long ways to go. And will he be able to ride away from the yellow jersey? That is the big question.
It is a big question, particularly on the descent once we get up and over the top. We'll be there, by the way, at the peak in 5.6 kilometres time. But yeah, it's going to be some nervous times. If the rain comes as well, Larry, I'm slightly worried that this could actually turn out to be a bit sketchy.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is it's actually a really quality road. It's a super nice road, and the one thing in the mountains as well is it does rain relatively frequently, or, you know, it's not like sometimes in Nice we don't get rain for a month. That doesn't happen up there in the mountains. So I would say that the roads will be pretty clean, even if it does start to rain. The only thing I'd be more concerned about would be the riders getting super cold, and, you know, if you don't have your team car right there, it can be hard to get a rain jacket, or, you know, if the pace is really high, it's hard to put it on. So, you know, it'll be that would be what I'd be more concerned about, is just, yeah, not being able to get whatever you need to go down the descent in time if it does start raining, because that can sometimes cause chaos. But I would say in terms of the road, in terms of the safety, it's actually shouldn't be too much of a problem here, because, yeah, these roads are used to seeing rain, and they're also, yeah, just super good quality.
40 points up for grabs at the top here, Sean, and Richard Carapaz has reignited his challenge for the polka dot jersey competition. He's looking magnificent.
Yes, he is, and you know, he can move into the leadership of it, because he's already picked up 10 points on the previous climb, and this one double points because of it, the highest point in the tour. So he could move up above the man who is leading that classification, Tadej Pogacar, if he gets the maximum points here. And yeah, they have done a great job in this earlier part of the stage to rectify the situation, get him in here.
It was an ore category that Richard Carapaz took before. There's 40 points up for grabs at this next ore category. Means beyond classification. Well, people say, well, how do you classify it? Well, in the old days, there was something called a Citroën Avant. It was a traction engine, so front-wheel drive, and they only had 3 gears. And if the car needed first gear to get up a mountain, it was category 1. If it could get up it in second gear, it was category 2, category 3, and the like. If it couldn't get up, I presume it needed pushing, it was beyond categorization. It was a general rule of thumb for those setting the course. It's become a lot more scientific since then, and in fact some more categories, I don't know, they don't deserve the moniker, but here at the Tour de France they certainly do, don't they, Larry?
Yeah, I have to disagree with you. I don't think it's more scientific. I sometimes think they just throw a random number and...
Can do, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Tour of Langkawi, a category 1. It was a motorway bridge.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you go to Belgium and, yeah, you can get an HC and it's maybe a little bit bigger motorway bridge. But yeah, it's sometimes you question, and then you have a giant mountain and it has... it's not even a Cat 4, you know? So yeah, I sometimes question how they make those decisions, and sometimes I think they just use a random number generator.
Well, in the old days, it was the old Citroën that the commissaires used to use, and the course setters. Lovely old car. Now then.
Unfortunately for the riders, if you cannot get up, you cannot get pushed like the old Citroën.
That is true. Yes, the old traction avant. 9%. This is that second zone of hurt, and of course they got the final kicker, almost cruel at the very last when they took the road up above. I seem to remember that they actually added that little loop at the top just so that they could get the highest road in Europe title. Larry.
Yeah, that's it's funny, we were speaking about that a little bit this morning, and that there's a lot of debate onto, you know, people say highest road, this, that, the other thing, but I think to clear it up, I'm pretty sure it is the highest paved through road in Europe, because it's not a pass. The pass is actually just before the little extra loop they do. It's not the highest paved road because there are some higher dead end roads. I think there are 2 higher. So since it's an extra little loop, what they say, it's the highest paved through road, so it's the highest, yeah, paved road that goes through, even though it's not considered a pass, since it's actually just an extra loop on top. So that's really confusing, and people can correct me on social media if I'm wrong about that, but I think that is the case. Maybe Jonathan actually would know more, but yeah.
It's a little lollipop, which is counted as a through road. Sounds like cheating to me, but but anyway, it has that moniker. What we do know, Sean, is it's very, very high, and this is going to have a big impact on all riders. It doesn't matter if you train at altitude. Racing is something else, and especially when it comes at the end of, what, a 3-week Grand Tour, which has just been so punishing.
Yes, well, the altitude training, of course, is the modern method, and it seems to be so much of the in thing with all the riders. Not only the riders who are doing the France and having to climb these unbelievable high mountain passes, they also do it for the other race as well. So it is a big advantage, but in this one, a bigger advantage again, that you do go to altitude and train for. They say the magic one is 3 weeks. That's where you get the maximum benefits. And all of those riders here in this group, you know, they definitely have been at the altitude. And you're hoping that that will help you to adapt when you get into this climb and you go that 2,000 meters, which they have been out with quite a few kilometers here. So yeah, it's a one where sometimes you can feel the effects a bit more for some reason. But yeah, it's going to be always a real difficult one when you go above the 2,000 meters, and then the gradient also was difficult, and at the point we're in the race also as well, that fatigue as well as in there and in the body. So, you know, accumulation of all things, this is going to make it a very difficult 3.5Ks for everybody here. And you can see Sivakov there. He's just, you know, pounding away on the front, and everybody is happy enough to follow. Will we see some action in that group of the favourites before we get to the top of this one? And here we have the Visma guys continuing on to tap away the pace. But gap is coming down. 3:34. It's dropping a bit. So it will be interesting at the top to see what the advantage will be for the breakaway.
Pushing home an advantage is going to be a difficult thing. Larry, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 3-minute gap by the time these guys get to the top, but with the work that Jorgensen and Kelderman have done as well, I equally wouldn't be surprised if it went in their favour. They've been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it could go either way, but these guys do look like they're really pushing on, and the gap is coming down slowly. But yeah, I think it might just hover around the same, because it doesn't look like either group is making huge inroads or going either direction. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but I think Carapaz will be really happy to get on top and getting those points ahead of the peloton.
John, this must be a national park of some sort. It looks absolutely spectacular. Oh, there it is, of Mercantour.
The Mercantour National Park, exactly right. Peaks over 3,000 metres high. It has lots of glacial lakes, 6 valleys that go between it. It's over 146,000 hectares. A jewel of unspoilt nature is the way that it sells itself, with chamois, ibex and mouflon cohabiting the steepest parts of the mountain. We haven't seen any of them yet. Larry, I was going to say that in the Cime de la Bonnette, it claims to be the highest route in Europe, but it's surpassed
My left
gravel or dirt routes.
cramping.
And there are 2 other routes in the European Union, the Pico del Veleta in Spain and the Otzal glacial route in Austria, both of which the Pico is 3,369 metres high and the Otzal one is 2,830 metres high. What it is, and this is where its uniqueness is founded, it's the highest route ever climbed by a Grand Tour. That's what gives it its special nature.
Interesting. Okay, well, good to know, yeah, the actual details. Thanks.
Just listen to this.
Well, this is something that's not normal up here on the slopes, except on a day when the Tour of France comes through, because this would be a very still area, I think, for a lot of the year. And as John was saying there, you know, the habitat we have here, that's about the only thing you would be hearing on a normal day if you come up here on your bike. But today, you know, it's a special one. We can see the crowds on the roadside supporting their riders and their favourites here. And yeah, you can see, you know, it's just a barren mountain there.
It's a moonscape, isn't it?
It's unbelievable, and yeah, it's a one where it must be great to come up here and just ride your bike casually, but not on the stage of the Tour of France, unless you're one of these super bike riders that's in the peloton or out in front here of the race at the moment.
We talk about those chasing on, but Jorgensen and Kelderman look well within themselves at the moment. I mean, why would they try and show us anything else, I guess? But amazing. Carapaz is waiting to hoover up 40 mountains points, you can be sure about that. Simon Yates looking for a little bit of sustenance, manages to get some just before the top. Van Wilder for Soudal quick step, presumably. Is he going to offer up anything to Remco Evenepoel? Maybe it was part of their battle plan, but Evenepoel himself is leading his own teammates within this group. As you can see, just hooked on the back wheel of Adam Yates, and he's coming up to join the fun. The yellow jersey is just at the back of this little quartet, and they've managed to put a little bit of space between Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard. I'm looking for the Pogacar jersey. My eye's dancing all over the place here. Well, intermingled within it, there he is, just sitting. So he's marshalling him. It's almost like he's on a tow rope here, Sean. And it's the way to play it. Extra pressure, just knowing that Pogacar is on your back wheel here. We'll hear from Adam Blythe in a few moments' time. Come back for Sean's thoughts after Adam. We're near the peak, 1,500 metres.
I'm still behind the leading group with the yellow jersey in there, and it's only 3 kilometres to go before the top. If Jonas was going to go before the top and he had Jorgensen in front, I heard Larry Warbass on the British commentary talking about how good Jorgensen is downhill. For the likes of Jonas, he's not been the best downhill, but if you have someone that is a little bit better than you in front, he can really do that work for you. He can extend that gap out. So if Jonas was to go, he's going to have to go soon if that was to be a plan. Maybe a risky plan, but I feel like Jonas needs to benefit from this high altitude. I don't believe waiting for the last climb with 2 riders in the front is going to be as much as a benefit to what this situation could be now. I'm possibly wrong, I probably am wrong, but this is a situation that I feel he could benefit from, especially up at this altitude. I'll leave that with you. Back to the commentators.
Thank you, Adam. We're just about to take this little lollipop loop. Carapaz had to show his face at the front here because he couldn't just expect to be let through and take the mountains points without having done something. But he didn't last long on the nose there, Sean, before it was taken back over by Jorgensen and Kelderman.
Well, yes, the 2 men from the Visma Elisa bike have been the ones who have been, pushing the pace on the front of this group of 6 riders, and it's their job to do that because the plan of the team was to try and get into the breakaway, and now that they're up there with 3:38, you just lead them do it. And Carapaz probably come to the front a little bit and say he's doing a little bit of it, and we can see here 12% as we get inside the final 600 metres here. I think Carapaz is not going to have any problem taking the maximum points for the mountain classification.
What a job by Christian Rodriguez to stay with it after encouragement from his team as well, to just hide in the wheels and just make sure that you get some draft, because at the pace they're going, even when we hit 12% here, it's worth taking that little bit of respite if you can get it.
Another good workout.
On the back of this,
very, very good.
On the back wheel of Jai Hindley, who's barely got a mention. What a super ride that he has had.
Tempo, we're barely breaking 160 heart rate.
Away from home, but he is monster riding at the end of this wonderful tour. Well, still 2 days of racing to come, and this day itself is still a story to be told. But the gap now is down to just around 3.5 minutes as we get to the absolute peak here. Still got to drag themselves.
I think we're almost done with Mount Everest, or whatever the hell we're doing.
Yes, well, that is what the organisers do. They find these real monster climbs, very high altitude. And we're hearing from
Everest, we got another 220, 210, 310.
They'll be looking at some of the bigger climbs, higher altitude, and try and get the local council to surface them, because that's what the organisers do. They all want to be better than the next and have that little bit of an advantage. And we're not
that'll pretty much give us about 1,000 left, so that'll put us all the way over here. Well, we hit level 30, so that's cool.
It's just easing a little bit, but it'll punch them again. The average is, of course, taken over a much longer reach than just 100 meters. But we're nudged up there to, 10 and 12%. Absolutely horrible. But it may well offer up something to the likes of Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard.
Well,
see you guys tomorrow.
If you're real good on this